There comes a time, somewhere after 50, when you realize home isn't just about where you live. It's about how you live. It's about who you're becoming and what you're ready to make space for. I'm Juli Ford, real estate expert and longtime wellness coach, and someone who's lived in a multi-generational home for the past decade while reinventing my life and my business. And this is Home After 50, a podcast about what it really means to find, shape, and come home to a new season, to a new home, to a new version of yourself. Whether you're thinking about upsizing, downsizing, moving in with family, or just asking bigger questions about what's next, you're in the right place. Each episode, I will share stories, insights, and real strategies for women redefining home and life on their own terms. Because after 50, home isn't just a place, it's a calling. And this time, it's yours. Welcome back to Home After 50. This week's episode is going to be a little bit different. When I first started this podcast, I knew that I was going to be speaking with you about multi-generational living, about redefining what home looks like after 50, but also what life looks like after 50. And that includes business. So today, I want to share with you a little bit about what's been going on with me and the kinds of things it's bringing up for me as a 56-year-old woman who completely, really tore down and rebuilt my business this year and has experienced some things that I wasn't expecting and that have caused me to learn more about myself. And I think it's probably going to resonate with many of you out there, whether you're building businesses, going after new dreams or ventures or projects later in your life, maybe especially after your kids have grown, or maybe you've finished one career and you're starting a new one at this age, or maybe you're just pursuing something that you always wanted to, something in the arts, a creative hobby or pursuit, or returning to a creative profession that maybe you abandoned it years ago. There's so many things. I talk about how I live in this multi-generational home with my mom. And, that's a big part of our life, having this larger home, even though, our kids have graduated from college. Only one of them is living here right now. And I've shared with you about so many families that I meet that felt like they downsized too soon. And now they want to upsize again because their kids left home, but are now sort of boomeranging back or visiting a lot with grandchildren. They want to have space for everyone together. But I also am in love with all of the different ways that people are reinventing their lives after 50, including a new friend of mine who I've come to know on Instagram. She's at the Unretirees on Instagram. If you'd like to go check out her profile, she and her husband sold everything and moved overseas and are living in Europe now and having a completely different experience of life after 50. So there's so many different ways to do this, but I know that so many of you who are tuning in here are at this stage in your life where you're just exploring different ways of doing things. So here's what's been happening with me. So earlier this year, after I completely changed my business, I left a group that I was a part of and really ventured out completely on my own for the first time in a long time, really the first time all in my life, in my business, running it completely my own way, on my own. And shortly after I made that decision, when not a lot of the changes were really implemented yet, I attended a retreat that was called the Rise Retreat. It was for real estate agents, and it was all female real estate agents through a group that I'm a part of called Powerhouse. And it changed my life. I met so many women there who were growing their businesses in completely different ways than I had seen other real estate agents do. And they were using modern marketing techniques. They were growing their businesses on social media, particularly on Instagram. And I had known that I wanted to do that for a long time, but I really didn't have the tools to implement that. But more importantly, and this is one thing I do want to talk about today, more importantly, I had not before that time surrounded myself by the people who were doing the things that I wanted to do. I could see them sort of in a distance, but they weren't in my circles. I wasn't in their circles. I wasn't talking with them all the time, growing relationships with them. And going to this particular retreat completely changed that for me. I met people there who were doing exactly what I wanted to do and who were sharing all about it. You know, some of them were teaching courses that I decided to sign up for. Some of them were just openly, you know, just sharing what had worked for them in community. And I left that retreat and I realized I was about to become a completely different kind of business person than I had ever been before. It's interesting to say that now. It was a feeling without a big plan. But I came home, this was in April, and I decided I'm going to implement this. It was a particular course that I took. You know, I ate dinner with the woman who ran the course, and I could just see firsthand everything that she had to offer. This is why I think it's so important to attend events and meet people and get in the room with people who are doing the things that you want to do. Because once you have a real conversation over dinner with someone that maybe you know, saw on social media before, it all becomes so much more real. And you can really begin to see a path forward towards implementing what you want to in your life and your dreams. This goes for more than just business, of course. I'm talking about real estate, but it could be any business or it could just be anything you want to do in your life. So I came home, I signed up for this course, and I just started implementing. And the crazy thing was, within 10 days of that course starting, I had a reel go viral on Instagram. It's up to almost 2 million views now. It was just a wild experience. I didn't see it coming. And then a few weeks later, another one went viral. That one's almost at 2 million views now, too. So the attention that I got from that is something that I want to talk about today. So what started happening was I started gaining tens of thousands of followers really quickly. There was an influx of messages and likes and shares, so many new followers, so many communications, so many people downloading my free multi-generational living guide. To date, 6,000 people have downloaded that guide. Across multiple platforms, I now have 50,000 followers. At the beginning of this year, it was probably less than 2,000. And that's all within 4 months. So it was a really fast trajectory of growth and influx of attention. Now, luckily on the back end, I had studied and implemented some systems to support all of that influx of communication. And I grew those systems over time, but I luckily had a foundation when the first reel went viral. So that, and what I mean by that is that someone could easily get the link. It was actually an automation that was running. So someone could comment a keyword, they would be sent a link in their direct messages. They would click that link, they would enter their email, they would immediately get my multi-generational living guide. They would also get an email follow-up saying, hey, here it is again in case you missed it. I hope you like it. And then kicks in a series of 7 emails, following up with them, seeing how it's going, asking for their thoughts, inviting people to share their stories, which is why I hear from so many people sharing their stories about either their experiences with multi-generational living or their hopes, their dreams, their struggles, their challenges around planning for multi-generational living. So I had those systems implemented and automated. I improved them over the past several months. And, you know, because of that, I ended up on the news 10 days ago. I talked about that in last week's episode. That was something I didn't expect either. But so here's what I want to talk about that is just very interesting to me because I'm curious if it resonates with you. And I'd love to hear from you if it does. I find that despite the fact that I'm pretty confident and comfortable being seen, I'm actually not that uncomfortable being seen. But I find that I've got so much attention. I've received so much attention for this virality and exposure that I am self-conscious about being seen too much, about taking up too much of the spotlight, about taking up too much space. And I actually know that that's a kind of useless worry. There really isn't any good that's going to come in my life or helpfulness to my goals of me shrinking back from that attention. I'm in a number of different coaching containers. One of them is our Powerhouse group. Powerhouse is the organization that I am in within my brokerage, eXp Realty, that is made up of over 600 mostly female solo agents, many of whom were at this Rise retreat that I went to in April that completely transformed my life. And I'm in that group with many of those agents, probably 80 of us come to every single meeting, which is a topic for another day because there's so much value in those meetings. And it's interesting that maybe 15% of the group actually shows up all the time. And it's usually the same people. And they're usually the one with the best businesses, which is interesting. But because I'm in that container a couple times a week, I'm in another coaching container, and because people are, other business people that I'm in these containers with are interested in what happened with my business and my social media this year, I get asked a lot of questions. I sometimes get mentioned or referred to a lot, and I'm self-conscious about it, which is so interesting. So I don't find I'm self-conscious about being out there and being public about my business and my message and what I have to say. What I'm finding I'm self-conscious about is this talk track that's going on in the back of my mind of like, you're taking up too much space. People must be tired of hearing about you. People must be tired of listening to you talk. Oh, there they go, talking about Juli again. I don't know if anybody's thinking this, and honestly, it doesn't matter, right? It totally doesn't matter. Today, in one of our coaching containers, the woman who runs it wasn't available. She had something come up, and so she just put a message out in our community, is anyone available to run the call? And my immediate thought was that I was going to be on the call, and I was happy to help if I was needed. And there's plenty of people who could do a wonderful job helping to run that call. But I hadn't seen many of them respond yet. So my talk track inside my head was, I shouldn't offer. I think everyone's tired of me. I don't want to keep taking up space in this container. And then the other part of me was like, well, isn't that kind of rude to not offer to help? Someone needs help, and I'm perfectly capable of helping, and I'm going to be there. Why wouldn't I offer to help? So I did offer to help. I got around that message in my brain that wants me to shrink and just said, I'm available. I'll be on the call if I'm needed. Now, someone else ended up running the call, which was great. And it was actually a great call. And I was happy actually that I didn't have to help run it. But it's interesting to me to observe that even at 56 years old, I still have a part of me that worries that I'm taking up too much space. And I'm so curious if that's something that you experience in your life too. And how do you deal with it? For me, how I deal with it is I just talk to my own brain. I've been a coach for a long time, for 17 years since I got certified as a coach. And I've practiced a lot of what I've learned on myself. Most of the benefits of coaching, I believe, and of self-coaching come from learning to observe our own thoughts and to become aware, to separate ourselves from our thoughts, to become aware of the ways that our brain is trying to protect us, is acting out old stories, things we grew up with, things we told ourselves or were told by others when we were younger or through challenging experiences. And I'm pretty good at seeing and recognizing those thoughts, but it doesn't mean that I don't still have to intentionally not let them run my life. So that's a daily practice for me, and the amount of attention that I've received this year because I went viral, which, by the way, doesn't necessarily translate into growing an amazing business. I do believe it's shaping up to be the foundation of a wonderful new stage of my business for me, but there's a lot of work that goes into turning that attention into real business. But it is a thing, getting attention and learning to accept that attention and then turn that attention into something valuable for you and for others is something that I'm grappling with. And it's a daily practice to not allow the instincts of my brain to talk me out of being seen and taking up space. And really the story behind that resonates with my heart and helps me overcome those thoughts is that if I hold myself back, how am I going to help anybody? That's what I think for all of us. Why would we shrink? We all have so many gifts to share. We all have so many ways that we can help one another. And indirectly, allowing ourselves to take up space and allowing ourselves to receive attention for good things that we do in this world. When other women see us do that, it gives them permission to go next. It gives them the green light to take up space themselves, to share their message, to share their gifts. And I really believe that if you're someone who has been given the opportunity of a spotlight being shown on you, that it's a responsibility that comes with the attention, that you try to use that to help other people. So that's what I'm trying to do here, trying to share my internal struggle as well as the tools, the coaching tools that I've implemented. Mostly just listening to my own self-talk and talking myself out of it. I just think of those thoughts in my brain as maybe a younger part of myself. And I talk to myself when my brain says, you can't offer to do that. You're taking up too much space. People are tired of hearing from you. My higher brain says, that's an interesting thought, but who's going to be helped by that? I need to go ahead and offer to help. So that's where I am with managing the spotlight that has been shining on me these past few months. I'm grateful for it. I'm really trying to respond to it with every tool that I've learned in my 56 years to turn that into both a blessing for my business and a blessing for the people that I can support, whether that be as their real estate agent, as their coach, as their certified senior advisor, or here speaking with you about life after 50 and how it can really be a time of transformation and reinvention and giving back to the world. Thanks for joining me this week. See you next time. If this topic resonated with you, I created a free resource, which you can download at juliford.com/spotlight. It's called the Spotlight Survival Checklist. It's the exact system that I use inside my business so that when a post goes viral, a national TV show calls, or you just have an influx of clients, you can plug them right into a system that turns the attention into business. This is for real estate agents, but it's also for any small business owner. So grab it now at juliford.com/spotlight. Thanks so much for listening to Home After 50. If this episode resonated, I'd love it if you'd come hang out with me on Instagram. I am at It's Juli Ford, ITSJULIFORD. Just remember, no E on Julie. That's where I share ideas and behind the scenes about multi-generational living, real estate, business, and creating a next chapter that you love. And if you're curious about whether multi-generational living might be right for you, you can grab my free guide. It's in the link right in my Instagram bio. It's a simple way to get started imagining what's next. Because after 50, home isn't just a place, it's who we're becoming. See you next time.